I know. I don't think I've had recordings fail, but I've never not hit record.
I did one time. We did a whole 3-hour interview with someone, and then I had to call them up and be like, I'm really sorry. We're going to have to do that again.
I know. I've had that conversation so I made this old lady cry. She was crying. It was this amazing interview. And then I was so excited. And then I listened to it. And I'm like, oh my God, only my side recorded and hers didn't.
Oh, yeah. And you're like, great. That's fantastic.
And then, and I said, hey, we don't have to do this again. Just don't worry about it. And she goes, no, I'll do it again. And so we did it again the next day. And it was really good. But she was she had already given all her emotions that first time. So it wasn't, it wasn't as good. I don't like to make people cry, though. So don't worry. I'm not going to make you cry, Fancy.
Oh, don't worry about it. I'm good.
Hey, well, it's nice meeting you. I had no idea what I signed myself up for. I'm like, I just jumped into the deep end with this whole gypsy stuff. Just to give you a little bit of background on how I even got here to begin with is that I would consider myself like most people that just watch the HBO documentary. I never even, and I still to this day have not watched The Act, but I know that a lot of people's entry point to the story was The Act. Yep. But I remember when I watched the Mommy, Dead, and Dearest that it never really sat well with me. The fact that that it was positioned as she's a victim, but then also the murder was kind of suppressed, and that always felt kind of weird to me. Yeah. But I never did anything with that. I just that was just like that feeling that I had. And then somehow recently I discovered that there's this all the stuff that I'd missed, this community that's anti-gypsy, and just even having casual conversations with people that I'm like, hey, I'm working on the story about gypsy, really neutral question, like, what's your opinion on gypsy? I'm shocked to find out that a lot of people have negative views about gypsy post-prison, unprompted, I'm not trying to lead them or anything. That's just how they felt, when I asked. Yeah. And then some people are really, really deep into it. Like they'll talk about the FOIA files. They'll talk about this. So this is a thing. I just didn't know it was. I just didn't know it was there. It's like this subculture,
Yeah.
And so
it's been really hard because of the media portrayal of it.
Yeah.
They from very day one, they got this case wrong. And I'm seeing the same thing happening right now with the Siders case, this house of horrors with the 16 children that were just found. I'm finding the same thing is happening again. And you expect media to be truthful in their portrayal of these things. And I'm honestly finding out that more often than not, they're not. They are very sensationalized. They will, go for the sound bites that make it go.
If it bleeds, it leads.
About journalistic integrity anymore. It's really crazy.
Let me shut my door because I forgot to shut it. I'll be right back. All right. Yeah. No, I agree. I'm in the media. I guess I'm a journalist. A little bit about me. I started my career in news. It was local news, but started in news, worked in news for many years, and I've done documentaries and stuff like that, and then got out of it because news doesn't pay, and so got a normal job, but I missed it. I missed the telling stories and being in the thick of it. So I started this podcast 9 years ago, not really thinking it was going to go anywhere, and here I am almost 10 years later doing these investigations. I actually don't even like true crime. It just kind of fell into it.
I fell into it. That's what happened to me. Like the same thing. So let's see. I've been an actress my whole life. I was in the industry. I did background work. I did different things, did community stuff. I moved out here to Kentucky to save my family because living in California, it was just so expensive and everything. We moved out here where my husband's originally from. His father had some health issues, so we came to be here. And I tried to get back into it as my kids got older. I went back to school for an education in it, and I was working with this woman who is an amazing coach out of California named Amy Linden, and she does the Linden technique and teaching you how to go and book the jobs. And I was working with her, and we were doing a piece that I was, going to audition for, and she stops me in the middle of the piece, and she's like, Fancy, what in the F are you doing? And I'm like, excuse me? I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. She goes, no, I don't know what you're doing, but all of that is not what you normally do. So what's going on? And I was like, well, I don't know. And so she told me, she's like, sit down, let's talk about this. And she's like, what's the problem? I go, I don't want to play nurse number 2. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do these parts. There are no parts here for me as a 40-year-old woman, that I want to play. I don't want to play any of these parts. I really don't. And so she looked me dead in the face, and she said, Fancy, if it's not out there what you want to do, then do it yourself. Write it yourself. So I started writing, and we filmed a pilot. It was about a bio thing about myself, loosely based on my mental health and losing my mother at 29 as a single child, and all of the things I went through. And it did well. We were working on that, and I started working on some other things. And Mommy Dead and Dearest came up on my feed for Facebook, hadn't even been released yet. And so I clicked on it to see what it was, because I have a very complicated past with my own mother. I was a single child to a single mother, and we had a volatile relationship all growing up. My mother was on lots of medications for her health issues that made her crazy, and so I grew up with that, with no dad, no nothing. So I very much identified with the story of this overbearing mother and this child who had gone through with that and everything. So I started figuring out that there were Facebook groups. I had never even been in a Facebook group at that point. And so I clicked on the biggest Facebook group there was, and then I went inside there. And
what was the Facebook group about? About the documentary?
It was literally about Gypsy Rose. And it's the biggest one. In fact, they've been quoted many times. There's been a lot of things that have been found from that group and put out there. And so then I started joining other groups. And I met Christy, which is Gypsy's stepmother, in this group. And there was these 3 ladies that now are my very dearest friends. I love them very much. I call them my OGs. And we were going back and forth, fighting about why were they arguing with Christy? Why were they attacking the stepmother? I didn't understand. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to message her. I bet she'll never get back to me, but I'm going to do it. So I went into this wanting to do a scripted series, much like The Act, who had not come out yet. So I was there before The Act even got made and done. They were just in the talks of The Act at that point in time. And I, in fact, wrote a letter for Christy asking them to cease and desist from certain things. So
yeah, because they didn't consult with the family or anything.
No, they did because Michelle Dean had interviewed Gypsy the family the one time for her BuzzFeed article, but that was it. And they were having issues, and so I kind of got involved with that. I contacted Christy. She messages me back, and I'm like freaking out that she messages me back, because I'm like, oh my God, I did not expect this. I basically just said, hey, I'm a small-time producer. I do scripted series, and I thought maybe because the documentaries, not everybody watches documentaries, maybe a scripted series would help explain this. So I went down. They were still in a contract with HBO, so I had to wait for 6 months before I could even go down and meet them. And so then the night that the thing expired, Christy contacted me, told me that Gypsy and her had decided that I was the one they wanted to tell their story. So my daughter,
which is amazing, right? Like,
yeah. My daughter
is like the biggest story. There is no bigger story.
No, there's no bigger stories. And I had no idea what I was doing. I just fell into it. Like, I'm literally getting this call from Christy, and I'm running into my job at TGI Fridays as a server. And I'm
but like, you have experience as an actress. You have experience in these scripted, but this is different. The documentary,
this is totally different. And
did you tell them about like what you would do and your experience?
Yeah. I told them, and I went down there. And I basically explained to them, I'm like, look, I can't promise that I can get this done, but because it's such a big story, and with your contacts and my contacts, I think we might be able to get this done, and I basically offered them, because I had no idea what I was offering. I was like, I don't even know what I can get for this, what I can do with this. So what I offered them originally in my contract with them was half of whatever gross profit I made. because I didn't know what else I
50-50.
could offer them. And I said, at the time, if we do a series, then your contract will be renegotiated with the network that picks this up, and they will.
But the plan was to do a scripted series.
Scripted series,
not documentary, because that had
not
been
documentary,
done.
not at all. So, I'm working with them. I'm writing the pilot. We're pitching this thing. I had meetings at Netflix. I flew out to California again because I'd moved back. I'd come from California back to Kentucky, and all of these different things. And so we just couldn't get any traction because people were telling me, well, by now the act has come out. And they're like, oh, the story's been done. And I'm like, no, you've not heard the story this way. And this is before I realized what I was being told by everyone in this family was a lie. So I
I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
Right.
I want to
just let me. I worked.
Yeah. Finish your thought. Finish your thought.
I worked with them for 2.5 years before I realized, hey, something's not right here. Mm-hmm. And that's when I began to really dive deep into this, and that's where it went from, a scripted series to, okay, we'll do a scripted series, and we'll do like a documentary, like portion after it, where you like interview the people, like a panel discussion kind of thing, which then eventually morphed into a documentary that we've been working on for many years now.
Okay, cool.
So
hey, let me before we go on, am I breaking up a little bit, or
no, but you're a little soft. I can't.
Okay.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
So so either I have bad internet. I think it's me. I think my internet sucks.
Well, mine sucks too. So don't worry. Let me see if are these charged? Maybe if
I think it's me. But as long as you could hear me, everything.
I can hear you. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, because this will record and I'll upload afterwards. Yeah.
I used to use Riverside. I know.
Yeah. So same. Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to back you up a little bit because
no problem.
because you answered like 9 of my questions all at once.
I'm really good at doing this. I've done this a long time.
I bet you have. But that's good though. That's a good problem to have. Okay, but now let's back up a little bit because I still want to take you back into that mind frame. This is before you really changed your opinion about the whole thing. So keep that mindset in mind. But you're on this Facebook group. I just want to make sure I follow. You're on this Facebook group. Christy's on there, so she's part of the family. And you messaged her, or she messaged you? I forget. Who messaged you first? Okay, but
because
what did that message say?
People attack her, and I wanted to know why they were attacking her. Okay. I couldn't understand. I'm like, she's the stepmother. What would she have?
It didn't make sense.
For? Yeah. Now I understand, but at the time I did not.
I lost you first. I don't know if you could hear me, but I lost you for a second. I think it's my internet. Hang on.
Yeah. You're still paused, but I can hear you.
Hey, we're coming back.
There we go.
Now
you're moving.
Okay. I think it's me. Let me see if I could close some programs or something.
I think it might be you.
Hang on. Yeah, no, it's definitely me.
You know what?
I'm almost tempted to restart my computer, but how are you on time? Are you good on time?
I've got all the time you need. Yeah, I'm welcome. I do have one favor.
Okay, so let's do this.
And I usually... Good.
I'm going to turn off my camera so I could at least hear you. Okay. So what were you saying? You have a favor?
I do have a favor to ask. Would I be able to, since usually if I'm not paid for these things, and I don't mind doing it when I'm not paid, but will I be able to use this on my own platform, like put it onto my own YouTube too, so my people can watch it there?
Oh yeah.
How do you want to deal with that?
Yeah, you want whatever I record, I could send your way.
That would be great. Okay, that's fine. That works out for me.
Yeah.
That works out for me.
So listen,
let me stop. You guys, I'll still promote you and everything.
Oh yeah. That's awesome. Cool. That would be great. Okay, listen, I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay. Ended up not using it anymore because of that.
That kind of sucks.
And it's not any better, I don't think. But
I haven't found one that's good.
I don't like any of them. That's I've not found one I like yet at all.
I know, but it is what it is. I use this one the most, and
we've got only
90% of the time. Yeah, 90% of the time it's okay. All right, so I remember where we were. So you messaged her because you were wondering why is this family getting hate. They're the victim's family. Like, it doesn't make sense. And you couldn't figure that out. What? And I'm sure you're condensing time, but like, what were those conversations like, and how did it end up with them saying, "Hey, Fancy, we want you"? Like, help me understand that part again.
Yeah. So I communicated with Christy mostly like back and forth, and I was just asking, general questions about things. I explained to her who I was, what I do, why I was asking the questions, and what I was looking for. And she was very open to it, and she would answer my questions as she could. But she had, like I said earlier, she had informed me that they were on like this 6 months NDA with HBO because it just came out. Like in the middle of me contacting them, it comes out. So they're still on like 6 months of they can't really talk to anybody about anything, but we can talk to you without really, talking to you, right? So I'm just gathering information at this point. And she set me up with phone calls with Gypsy, and so I talked to Gypsy over the phone many times, as this was happening, and I'm just gathering information. And, I started just writing my notes, and then Christy calls me up and she's like, "Hey, today's the day." And I was like, "What's today the day?" And she's like, "It's the day our HBO contract ends, and Gypsy and I have decided that we'd really like you to come down here and meet us, meet the family, and let's see what we can do." And so my daughter and I
at that point,
we went down there.
At that point, you guys were just talking online, but she knew you were an actress, that you were into script. But this was their idea, not your idea. Like, you didn't never propose like, "Hey, I could do this," or
no, I did. I did propose that, but it was kind of like, look, I think that with the story being the story it is, and my contacts that I have, and your contacts that you have, because they'd already done 2020 and things like that already, so they'd amassed certain people. I was like, I think we can get it done. But I didn't know at this time that the act was going on. So I didn't know how much of a what I was up against in the beginning even, and then finding out later on, more stuff that I was up against. So I did propose it to them, and like I said, we drove down. My daughter and I we were going to just spend a weekend. We ended up spending a whole week down there. I met Rod, I met Christy, I met Mia and Dylan, her brother and sister. Briefly, I spoke with Mia more than I spoke with Dylan, and we just they took us around the town. She took us all over, showing us where did Dee Dee and Rod meet at the bowling alley, and where was this, and where's the blue house, and all the different things. So we spent about a week with Christy. I only got 1 day with Rod. He had to go back out on the boat. And the interesting thing about all of this is that the exact same time that I'm down there doing all of this, and I meet the Petrie family too, which is Dee Dee's side of the family, right? So I meet Bobby Petrie, the sisters, the brothers, all of that. While I was down there, Gypsy's Revenge, the other documentary that came out before Nicholas Godejohn's trial, was filming as well. So I'm alternating days with Sophie Cunningham, who did that documentary. So the day that I'm talking to Christy and Rod, she's talking to the Petries, and the day I'm talking to the Petries, she's at Christy and Rod's.
Wow.
So to give you a timeline of when this is happening, and like I said, we just talked. And I sat on their back porch, he played me his guitar. Her parents fed me a po' boy. I went to the French Quarter to get some information about just the area and things. And I was staying with a friend at the time who was a lawyer, who was one of the top medical malpractice lawyers in the country. So I'm talking to him about this, and he's like, "She did time?" And I'm like, "Yeah, she's doing time." And he's looking at it from what we know at that moment, he's like, "I don't understand why she's doing time. I would have got her off. What is this?" So he says, "Let me look at it. I'll take it on." But Christy never contacts him back. And he's telling me, because I'm like, "Hey, have you talked to so-and-so?" And she's like, "No, I haven't got a chance to talk to him." And I thought that was odd, because here's a lawyer in your state who is willing to help you, and you guys aren't jumping on this. Why? If you think that if there's so many years of medical malpractice, and these doctors did all these, hundreds supposedly of surgeries, then why are you not jumping on this? And they always kept telling everybody, oh, well, there's no lawyer that wants to take it on. I'm like, that's not true. I gave you a lawyer. That's not true. So it just, as we went through this 2 years of me working with them, I questioned a lot of things. And that was the breakdown, is eventually questioning different things. And me realizing, hey, I don't think I'm getting a truthful story here.
Yeah, so you started feeling like something's up. Is this before or after they handed you medical records?
Before the medical records. So I had, when I went down there with my daughter, we had everything that HBO had collected, because Christy had this little, where is it? A little flash drive. Here it is, right here. This little flash drive. And so I stuck this little flash drive in, and I took everything off the computer, and I went home with that. So I had some medical records from that, like whatever HBO collected, because a lot of people don't know this. Mike Stanfield did not, her defense attorney, did not collect the medical records himself. HBO got all those for them. HBO requested them. But the main PCP, Dr. Steele, who did appear in Lifetime Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, he was refusing to send over his files. He stonewalled HBO. They couldn't find any information about him actually making the CPS call that he states that he made. And so I end up, once I take over this, my staff, my medical staff, who happens to be Dee Dee's old best friend, who is a nurse, wanted to help. So she started helping. And she started helping us get more records. And so we finally ended up getting Dr. Steele's records, because I sent a letter to him stating, hey, you have no legal right to keep these from Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and these are going to her. We are requesting on her behalf. So Christy got every single hard copy there was. I never got anything that Christy didn't have. I just got copies of whatever she had. And I was given these copies, the main bulk of what I was requesting, after I put out the entire interrogation video. So I'm the first person who released that in its entirety. We had seen clips in Mommy Dead and Dearest. I'd seen clips in Gypsy's Revenge. There was clips in the one with Nicholas Godejohn, and the one that was mostly focused on Nicholas Godejohn. I think it's Killer Couples. Yeah. And they did a thing was more focused on him, and I saw clips in it, and I was working with them on a follow-up to that about Nicholas's current girlfriend that was writing him in prison. Okay, and there's a whole scandal there, but I don't even want to talk about that. So I was trying to do this project with them, and I watched the documentary that comes out, and I noticed that there were extra clips in it that I hadn't seen in the other two documentaries. And I'm like, all right, where the hell are they getting this? Because I've asked Greene County, and Greene County says they don't have it. I've asked Mike Stanfield, and Christy says that HBO stole their copy, and they don't have it. Yeah, okay, stole the copy. But, and I can't get it back from Erin Lee Carr, because that would hurt her. And I'm like, oh, my God. So I asked this A&E producer, and she's like, well, do you want me to send it to you? And I'm like, you'll send it to me? She goes, yeah, I'll send it to you. So that's how I got it. I got the entire interrogation video. And at the time, another Facebook group who runs the channel YouTube Crime for Dummies had also put in a FOIA request. And we found out that the reason why Greene County didn't have it is because the interrogations were done in Wisconsin. Wisconsin was actually housing the interrogations, and that's why nobody else had really thought about it. I didn't think to look in Wisconsin. I figured everything would be transferred from Wisconsin down into Missouri, right?
No, but that makes sense, because that's where they caught him, right? Happened. That's where they caught him.
I find out from this other group that they've requested, and I'm like, I'm going to put it out then. I'm just going to put it out. And when I watched it, I have to tell you, that was the moment of breaking for me, okay? That interrogation video, it's a 2-hour video of her actually talking. There's other parts of it. And Nicholas, we had seen 16 hours of him sitting there waiting, but not her, so we only got this one part. And to say that it was shocking was just is not even close to what I felt. I went through a whole period of, I was crying, I was raging, I was mad, and the whole time I'm just waiting for a gypsy to give this big story, this big abuse story. And it never comes. And I'm watching her body language, and I am a student of, forensic psychology now. I'm watching her video of this, and I'm noticing things that I think are off. And then all of a sudden, Stan Hancock, the detective who is questioning her, gives her out of how, did Nicholas do this, and did you try to stop him? And I watched a split second, it was so fast. Her face changed, everything, and a whole story just came flying out of her. And I was like, whoa. That was visceral of a change. I don't know what's happening. I don't know anything. To, yes, he did. And I hope that he can get the help he needs now. And I'm like, whoa, what is going on? This is weird. This is really weird. So I'm working with my team, and we decide we're going to put it out. So I put the video out. Late at night, I just released the whole thing. My staff had all watched it by that point. I had sent it to Christy by this point. I'm like, have you seen this whole thing? And she's like, no, I haven't. I'm like, are you sure? Because it's really polarizing, Christy. I'm really confused about this. And during this period of time, there's a couple other things happening. The announcement about Gypsy's engagement is happening, and so I'm doing an article on that. There's all kinds of just drama going on in the Facebook communities, And so it was like a series of events. And Christy sends me this picture, and she's showing me that under the bed they found this prescription pad. And I'm like, no, that doesn't look like a prescription pad to me at all. So I put out a post asking the community, does this look like a prescription pad? And she immediately she turned on me in a second and started attacking me. And my OGs, the ones that were fighting with me in the original Facebook group that prompted me to message her in the first place, came to me and they said, hey, we think Christy Blanchard is playing you, and she's done this to many people before, and here's the proof. And they brought me all this proof. So I confronted her, and it turned into a really bad situation. She made up lies about me, having an STD, cheating on my husband. Knowing all of this, my daughter's in the hospital having spinal surgery, and she's doing all of this behind the scenes with another content creator, pitting her against me. And so that was the breaking point. But funny thing is not a couple weeks later, when I'm trying to dig into stuff, Christy comes to me and says, well, hey, we got more medical records, and I wanted to give them to you. I go, does Gypsy know that you want to give me these records? Because, Christy and I were still kind of okay, and she kept working with me long before Gypsy stopped, and she was doing that secretly, but she gives them to me, and I'm just like, this is an odd time to get these. I've just done things that you don't like. You're very angry with me, but now you want to provide me medical records that I've been asking for a long time and I wasn't getting.
So at this point, you hadn't received any of the medical records until this point?
No, I had received just
that thumb drive. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's this little thumb drive.
And now this is extra.
It had maybe a couple years of stuff on there. It did not have the vast amount of stuff I end up amassing after this.
So this is the second phase where this is with the bulk of the medical records.
Where we've got the bulk of everything.
And it could be because I don't know where to find things yet. I'm still combing through. I might have seen some of this, but where is the best place to dive into some of these medical records?
I put out some of, I think it's over 360 pages of it, which is nothing, okay? I want you to understand. If you look, I have about 7 of these
wow.
big-ass binders that have her medical records in them, and that's just the ones I printed out. There's way more on my drive.
Oh, yeah.
So I went through them, and in this last year, I was prompted to go back and look at them again based on things that were coming out from Gypsy's release in FOIA. And I put these out on Patreon. Now they're free. They're not, you don't have to pay for them anything. They're about 300 different ones that I put out. And a lot of it was something I found was the history from Louisiana. Because we never had any medical records from Louisiana. I never got any of them.
Supposedly they got destroyed during
Supposedly
Katrina, right?
They got destroyed, right? No. They were not destroyed. The doctors had the medical files. Her main PCP had files from Louisiana, and in one of his documents that he sent me was over 267 pages, and it was from Louisiana. It was the original asking of these once they landed in Missouri. And the thing is that it was 1 month. This fax came through to him 1 month after they arrived in Missouri. So this whole thing about he never saw the medical records, he didn't have them, he doesn't know, bullshit. Total baloney. I don't know if I can cuss on your podcast or not. So.
Oh yeah, and
okay.
cuss with conviction.
Total bullshit. Total bullshit. And then the other doctor, Dr. Beckerman, he also had the files because why? He knows that he didn't lose all his files because he treated her in Missouri from 4 years old, or in Louisiana from 4 years old on. He both treated her in Louisiana from 4 years old to 14 years old, and then in Missouri from 15 years old on. So he never stopped treating her. So he knows what happened in the files in Louisiana. So this whole thing about, oh, we've lost the files and they're gone, that is something that came up from, I don't know if it's just Dee Dee saying that and they didn't do their due diligence, or if the Dr. Steele promoted this because he didn't want to, pull up whatever he was doing. Because I truly believe some of the doctors are involved in some of the fraud. And I don't really think Dee Dee's involved in very much of the fraud at all.
You don't?
I don't. At
all?
After all,
I mean, do you think?
I don't.
But so, how many binders do you have? You said
like 7 of those.
Okay.
And they're the
do you
big
think?
ones.
Okay, you and I, like, if we were to pull all of our medical records, and this is just a 20-something-year-old,
right.
so like, let's say you and I pulled our personal medical records to the age of 24. Yes. Let's say, would we have 7 binders?
Yes.
Do you think so?
If you were a person who actually has a complex diagnosis like she does, which is legitimate, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I can go pull my mother's records right now, who was a juvenile diabetic and had all these different problems, and I think she has more. Like, my mother would have had more than this.
Yeah.
But I mean, periods of time that Gypsy's not seeing doctors. There's it's pretty unremarkable once you actually sit down and put it all together. You're like, this isn't at all what you've presented. Well,
let's talk about that actually, because since I haven't had time to dig through that yet, what's the greatest hits? Like, what did you find in there?
Okay, so the biggest find was in 2024. I sat down with a MBP investigator out of Tarrant County, Texas. And I don't know if you know anything about Tarrant County and MBP, Munchausen by proxy, or factitious disorder imposed upon another, medical child abuse, whatever you want to call it. They are the #1 leading county across the nation in being able to actually get convictions of this. Yeah. So I wanted to know.
I actually do know.
And I sat down with him. And so he's explaining to me, first of all, they remove the words Munchausen by proxy when they're talking in a court setting. They call it medical child abuse because people understand those words. People do not understand what Munchausen by proxy means. It's the
at least not then. At least not back then.
Yeah,
I feel like
now,
Gypsy
they still are very confused.
Right. And Gypsy's kind of like the poster child for it, right?
Yeah. Which is sad because she's not a victim of MBP, in my opinion. So, I sat down with him, and I had nurses who had gone over this for years, like a team, not just Titania, the friend, but I had my girl Colleen and several other nurses who had gone over this. Well, Colleen was still with me, and our other podcast host who did the Good Wives Guide to True Crime, which is a 13-part series on this back from 2019 that we did, had passed away. So I contact Colleen after I get off with this guy, and I said, hey, do you remember when Titania found that chromosome disorder? And she goes, yeah. And I said, could you please look at that one more time? And she goes, Fancy, I looked at it so many times. We never had any proof that it existed. And I said, yeah, but Colleen, could you just do me a favor and please just look at it one more time? I have a feeling there's something there. And because when it was first brought to us, Christy chalked it up to, oh, no, it's nothing. It's just more bullshit from Dee Dee, blah, 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 blah. Well, it was a 33-page document, and the entire time we did not have page 32 and 33 because Titania had a drive that was our oldest drive where we started collecting this. And we have like 5 drives after collecting all this information, that she had blocked Colleen out of. And when she left our company in 2024, she had to turn that back over to us. And so when Colleen went, that's where she went to, was this drive. And within 10 minutes, she calls me back and she's like, oh my God, Fancy, she has this micro deletion. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And she's like, no, I'm not kidding you. And she just started sending me information after information after information about this thing. And she's like, Fancy, everything that she had done, I mean, everything that was done is all connected to the 1Q21.1 microdeletion that she has. And there, if you go to rarechromo.org, there's like a 12 or 11 or 12 page document explaining all the different symptoms. It gives you graphs, it's everything. And on the front of it is a young lady that if you put her up to Gypsy Rose, they look like twins.
Yeah, similar features. I'm actually trying.
People think it was her. They were like, "Oh my God, it's her!" I'm like,
I'm trying to get an expert. I reached out to several different experts on this, and I'm actually trying to get families. There are Facebook groups of this specific micro deletion, and so I'm trying to reach out to certain folks, trying to get that perspective because a lot of times you're not a medical expert, neither am I, and we could paint this with a broad brush, and all those cases are very different,
which is why I say, and I might be able to put you in contact with a couple of people that I know have children that suffer from this. I know of one person particularly. So the thing is that's why I had a medical staff. Like Colleen, over the years that she worked with me, the 10 years that she was here, I think she was here for 8 years that she was here, she ended up getting a bachelor's degree. She got her master's degree in nursing education, and she almost became a nurse practitioner. So having her was invaluable to all of this, because it was every time I didn't understand something, I just picked up my phone and called her and was like, hey, what is this? What is that? And so I went through that, and I also have talked with several of the MBP experts, and I don't agree with them. I've talked with several people that are, in the centers that deal with this stuff. So to educate myself, because I'm a person that I have to know the facts. I'm all about the truth, You
said something, and I just want to drill down.
Yeah.
You talked to all these MBP, Munchausen by proxy experts, and you disagree with them. Do you disagree with them just about the Gypsy case, or do you just disagree with them about Munchausen by proxy?
Just about the Gypsy case.
What is your personal view on Munchausen by proxy?
Munchausen by proxy, I think that, for one, I think it's the label is a problem. I think that it's labeling something it shouldn't be labeling. Like, instead of labeling the perpetrator, it's actually labeling the victim, okay? And that's very confusing to begin with. On top of it, you don't know who Munchausen is. Like, what is that even, right? That's just some guy's name. So I have some issues with that. And that's why I usually refer to it as just medical child abuse, because it's very simple to understand. It either is or isn't medical child abuse.
That's a much clearer way of describing it.
Right? Very simple. Right. Yeah. So I do believe it exists, but I don't feel like it should have its own sect outside of child abuse. It's just child abuse. It's a form of child abuse. It's no different than any of the other forms of child abuse. They're all different, but at the heart of it, it's just child abuse. It's abusing a child. So I do believe in it, but on the same token, if you see my series about the MBP experts and this industry that they've created mainly from this story, the Gypsy Rose story, really, because before that they weren't getting any traction in whatever. Nobody even knew what they were talking about, most of them. There's no accredited course, there's nothing for them to become experts on the case. Mm-hmm. So I have seen what they've done in other cases and how they've destroyed families that have complex medical diagnoses. And that seems to be the problem with Munchausen by proxy or medical child abuse, is that it doesn't account for a sect of people that they don't understand what they're looking at. They're not necessarily neurologists, and they're just doctors or psychologists, and then there are what's called child abuse doctors that are certified through like a course, and they can speak on these things. But the problem with that is they're not doctors that are specifying in anything like a specialist. They don't know anything about complex disorders or microdeletions or chromosome disorders or any of those things. So they're taking that, and they a lot of times they throw out what a real specialist has found and done as junk science, and basically they're rewriting this without consulting with these doctors. And I don't agree with that. I have found, and since the Gypsy Rose case, there has been an uptick in these type of cases all across the country. And I think that's because of what they did with this case. And I feel
Are you saying there's an uptick in fake claims?
No, claims of them actually prosecuting this. And looking at different things and the way that it's being put together. Like there's an.
You don't think that's a good thing though? Like that
I don't. Because these are cases that when you look at them fundamentally, a lot of them include people that these doctors and these experts, I don't think, understand the full beat of what these kids are dealing with, what these parents are dealing with. It's like I said, anyone who's medically fragile or very complex diagnosis, they're not prepared to look at that the right way. I feel like they need a better specialist panel. I think they need more training instead of just some random doctor who goes to some 12-week course and that's that. Like, you go through psychology classes, you don't hear about Munchausen by proxy. You don't hear about it. They don't teach you about it unless you go into really, really specialized, like, later on. But still, there's no, thing to become an expert in this field. There's nothing. You just decide you are. And that's basically what Mike Weber did. He was a detective for the prosecuting attorney's office out of Tarrant County, and he'd never had one of these cases. So then he has this first case, and he really largely kind of messes it up. And then he decides that he's going to that's what he's going to do. And he's going to become the expert that investigates these cases for Tarrant County. And he doesn't have any experience. He doesn't have any law. He doesn't have any law background. He's got a law enforcement background. He doesn't have any medical background. And here's this guy out here determining whether you're abusing your child or not.
And this we could talk about this all day, but it's also about we're not. Neither one of us are denying that medical child abuse is the thing.
Exists.
Right?
Nope.
But almost like coining it and coming up with a term for it makes people more aware of it. So, for instance, the people that do encounter this are cops, they're doctors, they're counselors at school, counselors, you know what I mean? So, almost by identifying it and coining it, you are helping see cases that might have slipped through the system. So, for instance, not that this is the same thing. This is not the same thing at all. But autism, for a long time we never labeled autistic people autistic, and so people would call them retarded or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they were lumped into this one category. But now that we could we understand what it is, we become more sympathetic to what it is and what they're going through, and I feel like as a society we have become more compassionate and are addressing that issue. I kind of see the same thing with Munchausen by proxy. whether we like the term Munchausen, I agree. Right. It's kind of a clunky term. Yeah. But having officers out in the field that are aware of this and are kind of looking at it from that point of view, I think it's a good thing. Personally.
I do think it's a good thing. I simply believe that they need to be more properly trained. I think that social workers who are encountering these types of claims and have to go out and investigate them need to be much more educated. And if you talk with even some of the, the medical child abuse, other people, they agree with that. They agree that this is not educated enough for a lay person as a cop or a social worker or whatever to understand even what they're looking at. Like, you see this in the case of like Gabby Petito and understanding what, domestic abuse is from a narcissistic abuser. Cops don't understand what they're really looking at and they make mistakes. Same thing here. They go out there looking for child abuse. They're looking for starving kids, dirty houses, nothing in the fridge, bruises, welts, whatever, When you go out for a Munchausen by proxy case, that's not what you're looking for. Right. You're not looking for bruises. You need to know whether this kid is actually 100% sick or not, So I do think education is the key to really separating false from fiction in this, Yeah. And that's
I think we're kind of saying the same thing. I just think, Okay, so this is in my notes, and I actually don't have a lot of context from my memory about this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Something about scheduling a News Nation interview. Does that ring a bell?
Yep.
What? Tell me about that, because I have no context.
Okay. So I've been in 2 documentaries on this. One early on when I didn't know anything, okay? That was the one for the Reels channel, and I was very sympathetic, And then I did another one during the heat of COVID. I think it was like 2021, 2022. And that was Killer Cases, season 1, episode 6, where my only thing for doing that, I didn't get paid or anything. The only thing I did was ask that the Blanchards not participate in it if I was going to participate in it, because I felt like we've heard from the Blanchards enough. We need to hear alternate stories about this. There needs to be more information. And so they agreed. So I participated in that one. And then I left the Gypsy Rose space for about 3 years. I really wasn't doing anything. We had done our podcast. We did some breakout things here and there that we were reporting on, but we moved on to other true crime. Because I found out that I really liked it. I've always been fascinated with true crime. I just never thought I'd make a career out of it. Right. So we moved on, and News Nation reaches out to me, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, I called up Colleen at this point, and I'm like, should we do this? And she's like, well, it's a big platform. Gypsy's getting out. This is right before she's getting out. And I'm like, all right, I'll just try to do it. I'll do it. So I talked to the producer that is like the one that contacts people and gets the story, the preliminary story, before you go on to talking with Ashley. And I talked with her for a good long time that day. And she says, hey, Ashley wants to interview you tonight. And I was like, oh, okay. After everything I'd shared, and I basically told them, I'm not sure you want me. Like, I'm not the person that you guys think. I'm not going to give the happy, wonderful MVP story that you're looking for, because my research has found something completely different at this point. I am no longer believe any of that. I have the medical documents. I know what she's been through and not been through. There is not 100 surgeries. There is 4 major surgeries, a biopsy, and some minor surgeries for other things, and some dental stuff. There's no 100 surgeries. There's not even 30 surgeries. Like, this is not this, and and she has a microdeletion, and it explains a whole hell of a lot. So, I don't think I even knew about the microdeletion yet. I didn't. I was just like, I just don't think that she had what she had, right? So, Colleen and I decide we're not going to announce this, because every time we've done so in the past, the Blanchards have gotten a hold of it, and they've done something to either sabotage it or keep it from happening, or tell them that, I'm this scam artist or what have you, right? So I get a call. I went and talked to this random TikToker who I'd been talking to about the story and didn't know that she had been around all the way back to the beginning, and I had known her previously, and I didn't like her.
You didn't make that connection.
So I told her. She was the only person I told beside my actual team, and she goes to Christy Blanchard, and she tells her. So Christy sent an email to News Nation, and I have it, telling News Nation that if they interview me, they will never, ever interview anyone from their family ever again, and that she would be willing to come on and do this interview. And apparently they'd been trying to get an interview with Christy for months, and she had been stonewalling them. So she's finally giving them this opportunity to interview her. So they call me up and they tell me that the Epstein files are breaking, which they were, but they didn't do a story about it, and that I'm being pushed. And so maybe they'll get in contact with me in the next week or so. And I'm like, maybe you'll get in contact with me? So I'm like, all right, I know what happened. I don't know how she found this out yet. I don't know that this is how it's happened yet. Until Christy decides to go on one of my former partners' YouTube channels, and she admits to all of it. And she shows the letter. And not only does she show the letter, she shows the letter back from Ashley Banfield back, telling them that they'll bump me, and that can you meet tonight at whatever time to do an interview. And I'm like, my God, I didn't even, they telling themselves so very much. It's not even funny in this situation. Like, I would have never had the proof of that had she not gone on.
Had she not, right.
Yeah, gone on and told on herself.
Or I mean, you would have inferred if she went on and you didn't, I mean.
Yeah, I would have been able to infer it, but I could have never proved it. And that's part of the problem with this, is they do a lot of underhanded shit, and you can't prove that they've done it, but you know that they have.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, so I want to ask you a question, but let me explain. That's
what brought me to TikTok. So I was so angry. Okay, I had an old TikTok account. I never used it. I don't like TikTok. I still don't like TikTok. I have problems with it. It's a very toxic place, let me tell you. Especially the Gypverse, as they call it, the Gypverse. That was what brought me to TikTok. And within a month of me being on TikTok, I had amassed over 20,000 followers. I was holding nightly live broadcasts, and I was having 2,000 to 3,000 people in my room, because I was explaining everything. I pulled out the medical files. I'm pulling out everything and explaining.
People are fascinated about this. Yeah.
Yes. And so that's what led me there. And it leads to all the bad stuff that happens for the last 3 years since Gypsy's been out. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. I've been sued, harassed, stalked, all kinds of things.
Well, I want to talk about that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Hold on. Let me prioritize what I want to ask you next, because that actually is really interesting. I'm tempted to just jump in there, but all right, hold on. Okay, before we move too far from the whole microdeletion part of the story, I just want to finish that part off. You and not only you, but a lot of people in the anti-gypsy community have pretty much said, aha, that's why Dee Dee was taking her to the doctor so much. That explains everything. But does it? Does it explain everything?
It does explain everything. And
so,
let me explain
the feeding tube, the leukemia, the paralysis,
all of it.
Okay.
Now, the paralysis, yes, she has legitimate muscle tone weakness, but in the FOIA documents, in these 111 videos that we got released to us last year or the year before, I can't remember if it was 2024 or 2025, because so much has come out in this one period of time. And to understand this, in 2019, when we were investigating all of this, we had nothing. Okay, we had one casebook, Gypsy's casebook, but out of that casebook, there was lots of things that were removed, and Patterson explained to me, that's the DA, explained to me the reason why we couldn't get anything else is because Nicholas Godejohn was still going through the appeals process. So we didn't get these FOIAs until, I think we got them in 2025, is when the FOIAs came out.
I think
because he went through his last appeals, even at the federal level. So, that's where this information came from. So back in the day, I was grasping at straws. I had lots of things I believed, but I couldn't prove any of it because I didn't have it. You know, and in this documents, these 111 videos, Gypsy admits to Nicholas on camera that she faked the paralysis for over 13 years, lied to her mother, to doctors, and all of her friends and family. That she did it. She had a seizure at 6 years old, which we verified, and that from this seizure, she experienced temporary paralysis, and that she decided that she liked the attention and thought Mama loved her more when she was sick. So she decided to stay into this chair for all these years, and she lied to everybody. But the thing is it's all because of an underlining thing. She really did have muscle weakness. She really does have a trouble walking. If you look at her gait, she has a problem walking. You know, and it will degenerate over time. It will. Mm-hmm. So she may end up in a wheelchair later on in life already because of this disorder. It's very common. So it's kind of like the perfect storm. There was like a little girl who decides, oh, I really like attention and I crave attention, which is a big thing with Gypsy Rose. And how do well, Daddy doesn't want anything to do with me, and Mama loves me more when I'm sick, and I get all these things, and I get to go do stuff, and I go all over the place. I'm just going to sit my butt in this wheelchair for 13 years and not tell anybody. But in 2011 is when they discover the microdeletion. Now, if you want to know anything about the 1q21 microdeletion, it was not medically found until 2008. So all these years, from 1991, I believe 1991 when Gypsy is born, all the way to 2008, they don't even have a name for this thing. They don't even know what it is. So the doctors were running the legitimate tests, trying to figure out what the problem is. And one of the things with this disorder is that it has it has an extremely wide range of symptoms. Okay, so you can either be completely asymptomatic, you don't even know you have it, but you're a carrier of it, or it can go all the way up to a baby is so severely microcephalic that they die within an hour of birth. So that's a huge bracket.
Huge range. Okay? Yeah.
So in 2008, it's discovered. By 2011, Gypsy's neurologist is like, I've got to figure out why she has all these little problems that don't seem to connect. I've got eye problems. I've got muscle weakness. I've got ear problems. I've got, this and that and all the little things. She's got stomach issues. And they finally did this test. And the first test came back as being, no, we don't think she has a microdeletion, because it was just a karyotype testing, which is preliminary testing. But then they did the comprehensive, what's called a microarray, that looks for these kind of rare genetic disorders, and they found it. But here's the thing about Gypsy's disorder versus anyone else with this disorder, and it is why, in my opinion, and that of my medical staff, that we think her deletion is so prominent and why it touched every piece of her, is because the national average for someone with this deletion is 1.35 megabase. Okay, so that's a small portion of chromosome 1 that is deleted. Okay, but Gypsy's is not 1.35. Gypsy has twice that of a 2.74. So now you're going like this across her chromosome. And so the one section that normally is 1q 2.1 is up here, but the next section down here is what actually covers TARS syndrome. And it's a really big disorder as well. And she has that portion missing too. So when you put the two together, it explains why she has like every freaking symptom you can possibly have, because her deletion.
Well, why is she fine now?
She's not fine now. She's not. That's the thing. She's not fine now.
What's wrong with her now?
She has problems, and she refuses to admit that she has these problems, which, if she does not take care of herself, is going to end up with a shorter lifespan because she's not doing the proper.
But like, what do you think, in your opinion? Like
I said, she can have a regression of the muscle tone weakness. It can cause deterioration in her bones, in her muscles, in her joints, and it can eventually shorten your lifespan. The average person that has this is somewhere between 45 and 60, but with Gypsy, it could be even less than that because of the extra amount that she's got deleted. So it covers so much. Like, this is like a huge, so think of your thing being like this big, right? And if I take that part away from it, all you've got left is this. That's a huge deletion. They call it a micro deletion, but it's a big deletion.
Yeah.
And it touches every
and it's so rare. And it's so rare.
It touches
and hey, you keep talking about your medical team. You had the nurse, right? That was almost a nurse practitioner. Who else was on your team?
I had 3 other nurses that were involved besides Titania, so a total of 4. At one point, I think we had 5 or 6 of them, but the core team was this 4 nurses that some of them had. Colleen herself suffers from the gastrointestinal problems and has had the feeding tube and all of that herself, so she had information about that. I had another nurse that had some children that had medical issues, like some of the chromosomal things, and so they had a lot of knowledge just based on that as well. So that's who I really worked with, and I have talked with a few single-handed doctors in this over the last couple of years, but originally, it was mainly just these 4 nurses that we had that really dug into all of this.
So, and one more question about the microdeletion, then we're going to move on to another topic. But the leukemia.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Okay. So originally, I stood on the fact that I didn't think Gypsy had leukemia. Even with the microdeletion, I thought, no, she didn't have it. She's lying about this. But it always sat wrong with me because it was in her medical files. It was there. And we found that there was a document that had an attachment behind it that showed that there was a file that had this diagnosis in it, but they didn't have the file. They just had the file number of it. So it's referencing this other file, but we don't have it. So I'm still like, I don't know. And then one of the other content creators was going through the crime scene photos, and she found this this page that Dee Dee had printed out with Gypsy's pictures on it, explaining this specific type of anemia, which is connected to the microdeletion in minute ways, but also that Dee Dee suffered from this. Dee Dee had cancer. Dee Dee had cervical cancer and had a hysterectomy. And then in 2014, Gypsy and Dee Dee are both talking to their private Facebook friends. When we got the Facebook messages, we learned all of this, that Dee Dee was being tested for the exact same type of leukemia that Gypsy had. And what it really is, it's not your standard leukemia. It is considered, it's the most treatable of all childhood leukemia. It's acute lymphoblastic leukemia. But what it comes from is a rare type of, I can't pronounce it. It starts with an F, and I always get it wrong. It's like Fanconi or Faustoni, something like that. Anemia. And Dee Dee explains this later on. Like, she tells people it's not leukemia, it's like an anemia that can cause leukemia. And because of the TAR syndrome area being low and this anemia, it acts like it's leukemia. And they treat it the exact same way they would treat leukemia. But in the 90s, they would not have known the difference, because
they would
guess
just treat
what?
it the same way.
This anemia, guess when it was discovered? In 2008, along with the microdeletion.
I'll tell you what. Let me tell you, every time I ask you a question, I'm like, oh man, more homework. I got to go down that rabbit hole now.
You're like this rabbit hole, and that rabbit hole, and this rabbit hole. Oh, trust
it's like,
me,
stop talking so that I don't have to go through.
Stop talking, don't say anymore. So it's really this anemia, and it may have morphed into, at 5 years old, this leukemia, but she has this anemia still today. She still has problems. And in 2014, in the Facebook messages that came out, they're talking about this. And so Dee Dee is talking about it and explaining that they're going back to the hospital for a bone marrow aspiration. So I start looking into that, and I look through the records, and I'm like, and we found out that during this period of time in 2014, this is a period of time where they are being seen at the hospital in Kansas City, staying at the Hope Lodge, which you have to have active cancer to stay at the Hope Lodge. And she is, she's not communicating with Nick during these days. Like, there's long periods, like a week, where she doesn't talk to Nick, and she's talking to Nick constantly, every other day, all day long, all hours of the night and day, which was another anomaly of, like, how are you having this conversation with Nicholas at 2:30 in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 at night, 9 a.m. in the morning, and Mama is supposed to be this overbearing mama, right? Like, I couldn't pull that shit on my mama. I know that. And my mother was very, very overbearing, you know? So,
hey, so I got a document, actually, funny enough, like the other day, and I wonder if this is related to what you're talking about. Kansas City Mercy Hospital, is that right? Okay. Yep. So this is Greene County Sheriff's Office. I just did a FOIA request, not knowing what I was going to get. So it said, on June 14th, 2015, while assisting with the missing persons investigation reference, and this is where they call her Claudinia, I guess.
Claudinia, yeah.
Yeah. And her daughter, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, I was assigned to call Mercy Hospital in Kansas City to see if Claudinia. Right. Oh, you have this document?
Yep, I have the document.
And then it says, they needed to verify whether Dee Dee and Gypsy were within the facility, and then they contacted him, and they stated that he had used his department resources and could not find where Dee Dee or Gypsy had ever been to Kansas City Mercy Hospital.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I wasn't sure if that was like net new or
so
you knew
that
about
is
this.
part of it. But they did pull some 210 documents from Cox Health, which is funny because I don't have records from Cox Health. I have records from Children's Mercy in Springfield, Children's Mercy in Kansas City, Louisiana. I have a couple from different hospitals there, but we didn't have Cox Systems. I did have 2 pieces of paper from Cox Systems talking about billing, but I could never figure out why I had that because all the other records were Children's Mercy, you know, so that's really weird. And we don't know what those 210 documents actually showed them because they didn't pull any other documents. And then there's emails that have come out between D.A. Patterson and Mike Stanfield, Gypsy's defense lawyer, about these records, and they're highly suspicious as well. It's very weird.
I'll look into that. All right, now you mentioned earlier that when you joined TikTok, it's been a nightmare ever since. And I think I know some of it, but I'm not sure if I know all of it. I'd love to hear it from your point of view.
I have lost countless accounts from being mass reported by Gypsy's people, and they've admitted to that. They know that they did it. Gypsy did it. They did it. Gypsy put out, right after she came out, she put out a message to all of her, closest, dearest friends on Facebook to deplatform me. That I had harassed them, stalked them, I'd posted false information about them, that I'm a scam artist and a liar and blah, 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 and I need to be deplatformed on all platforms. So I started getting attacked on all platforms. And there's just been a lot of drama within this community that started out of this TikTok community. And it goes well beyond anything with just me. Constantly, I mean daily, they are all up there on panels every day, arguing with each other, screaming at each other, fighting. They contact people's work. They try to get people fired. They try to break up marriages. It's insane.
It is, and
I've never seen anything like this.
I think that's the most surprising thing about this whole thing is that when I first started this, I'm thinking, okay, well, there has to be a pro-Gypsy side, and then there's this anti-Gypsy side, and for some reason, I just thought that the anti-Gypsy side were all in harmony and agreed with each other, but no, it is a shit show.
It is a bloodbath.
Yeah.
So I've been through the hell with this with several content creators. I've argued with members of the family attacking me, calling me a liar. I've been accused of doxing their entire family because I put out some of the family tree, the people that are, deceased in this family, explaining how this isn't a family that migrates out. Their family tree doesn't have branches. It's a wreath. It's called something called an endogamy, and that's a community that does not marry outside of their community. And that plays a big role into this microdeletion, in my opinion, and why we're seeing this with them. And they all have specific problems that coincide with a family tree that doesn't branch, okay? And so I got called out for that. Oh, you're doxing our dead relatives. Well, you can't dox a dead relative. You can't dox the dead. And my thought process on that was like, okay, so wait a minute. You've spent years claiming this woman is the worst woman on the face of the earth, basically, and you want to know where the rights are for your dead ancestors. Well, may I ask you, where are the rights for the dead woman? Like, this is the woman who died. She's the victim in this. Like, no matter what you want to think about her, she still is a victim. She died. Her life has been taken brutally at that.
No matter what.
So I'm like, so where's her justice? Where's her, people that are angry about that? And so I started this thing called Dee Dee's Law, trying to change the laws and how they work, and going past what Son of Sam does, and really looking into that. And I have a change.org I can give you so you can look into that and see what we're working
but
on.
essentially, what are you saying? You're going to take it, because Son of Sam law is only recognized in certain states, right?
Right. So this would be a federally recognized, I'm going for a federally recognized law, starting at the state level, moving to federal, and it would go beyond the parameters of what Son of Sam went on, based on the fact that when Son of Sam was written, we did not have social media. So it basically only covered like book deals and deals with the network. There is nothing to cover coming onto TikTok and tragedy pimping, and basically I looked at it today. I'm actually doing another piece on someone else, and it's called sympathy harvesting. And I
call them grief vampires or
sympathy harvesting. And you basically take your own story and you use it for sympathy for monetary gain and for everything.
Well, let me ask you this. So the big accusation is that Gypsy's making a fortune, or at least profiting from the murder of her mother. But a lot of people are profiting from the murder of Gypsy. Of Dee Dee. Yeah. So would your law kind of
my law
rope them
goes into misinformation. So they can't disseminate misinformation, so they wouldn't be able to make these inflammatory type of documentaries or posts or whatever, based on the fact that if you can't prove what you're saying in this with documentation and everything, then you can't put this information out there. You can't just lie, which is what has happened here. Yeah. They've lied. They've all lied. The media lied, and they knowingly lied. I've caught them in lies. I've caught the doctors in lies. I've caught them all, and that's the why they don't like me, and that's why I've had so much problem. Which led to Gypsy and her family sued me in Missouri. I was not served. I was not told that I was being sued until an independent third-party YouTuber made a post about it, and it was I had to appear on Tuesday, and I found out about this on Thursday. Okay, so
I live served?
I live in Kentucky, so I am 12 hours away from where I'm supposed to go. And I didn't even know I was supposed to go there. And I contact Mike Stanfield, who's the person that's now her manager and new lawyer, and he's like, I said, "Did you intend to serve me, Mike?" And he's like, "No, I didn't." And I'm like, "Well, that's really interesting, because I think you have to serve me for me to appear." But I had contacted the court on Thursday. They didn't get back to me until Friday about the fact that that they were still trying to get confirmation. On Monday morning, I get some information that I may have to appear, and I'm like, fuck, what do I do? Right? So then on Tuesday, on Monday, okay, I'm sorry. So Monday, I get the confirmation that I have to appear. So I leave my house and I drive with someone else to this whole thing, and there's a whole mess there, but I don't want to talk about all that. And I have to appear in court. So the only reason I could not appear as a Zoom call or anything is because I was not given enough notice to put in a request, because it has to be 48 hours in advance. So finding out on Monday that I got to be there at Tuesday at 9 a.m., I'm in crisis mode, right? I don't have money to go. I don't have a car to drive across the county line. My husband has to be here for his job. I don't know what to do. So I end up going, and the case gets tossed. And it's funny. It's really funny because there's a whole altercation that happens at the hotel lobby with Mike Stanfield before we go to court. And I'll talk about that if you want me to. I can. But we go into the court, and I'm told that I can't bring in anything of mine. I can't have my laptop. I go, well, that's where all my evidence is. I don't know what to do. I need my computer. I'm acting as my own lawyer. I don't have a lawyer. I'm acting as my own lawyer. I don't know what to do. And so they said, well, the judge says that if at some point in time you are to need this, he'll let you come down and you can get it, and then you can come back up and the court will proceed. I was like, all right, well, fine. I'm not going to argue with you guys, whatever. So I go up there and I have nothing. I'm sitting there. I've got my friend with me and 2 independent podcasters from Into the Weeds who actually obtained the FOIA records for everybody. Thank you for that. With me. And that's it. It's just me. Mike Stanfield's on the other side. He comes walking in. He's got his whole, bag of everything, all his evidence, all his computers. And I'm like, this is really freaking unfair. This is not okay. And I'm thinking, great, this is gonna be crazy. They're gonna win. He's gonna win, because I feel like this is a door deal waiting to happen, right? And so I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I'm sitting there, and the judge comes in from his chambers. And as he walks past me, he smiles at me. And so I'm like, maybe it's not going to go as bad as I think. So, he gets up there and he's like, Miss Johns, my legal name, and he's talking to me. And he's like, do you know why you're here today? And I said, no, not really. I don't. I have some ideas. I understand that there's some sort of federal injunction to stop me from talking about this that they want, and I guess that they want me to take all of my content down. Judge, I really don't know. I was not served about this. And he goes, okay, so the reason you weren't served is because it's just a restraining order, but it's a federal restraining order basically, and we don't have to notify you of that before this whole thing. I go, well, that would have been nice to know before I drove 12 hours to be here. If I didn't need to be here, then why am I here?
Really
Your
unfair.
office told me I needed to be here. So he says, but can we all agree that it's a good thing you're here today, Miss Johns? And I'm like, I guess. So then he turns to Mike, and he starts asking Mike, he's like, why have you brought this before my court? And Mike's like, well, because, the tort, and I don't know what a tort is. I'm like, I have no idea what he's talking about. I'm just trying to gather information from what he's saying. I'm like, okay, tort, what could that be? He's like, the tort is, it originated here, and blah. I'm like, oh, he's talking about the contract. And blah, blah. Okay, I got it. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to say if the judge comes back to me. He goes through all this thing, and the judge goes, okay, but that does not explain why we're here in Chillicothe, Missouri, doing this. Does your client, Mr. Stanfield, any of your clients, you've got Mia, you've got, so the sister, the father, the mother, and Gypsy are all suing this woman, and does any of that, do any of them reside here in Missouri or even in Chillicothe, Missouri? He's like, no, they reside in Louisiana. He's like, okay. He goes, do you reside here in Missouri? I don't believe you do you? I said, no, sir, I live in Kentucky. It was a long drive. And he's like, okay. So I'm asking you again, Mr. Stanfield, why is this in my purview? Because I don't believe that it is my jurisdiction. And he starts to argue, and he goes, okay, well, let me ask you this, Mr. Stanfield. Miss Johns, did you, in your contract, did you put what state the contract is out of? I said, yes, sir, it's drawn out of California. Yeah. He goes, and okay, so did you try taking this to a California court, Mr. Stanfield? He goes, no, I didn't. He goes, okay. Miss Jones, did you put a clause in here for arbitration? I'm like, yes, sir, there is an arbitration clause. He goes, Mike, did you happen to go through arbitration with her over the contract that you're suing her over? And he's like, no, I didn't. He's like, okay, then I'm just going to have to say that I don't see any reason for this to be held in my court, and I'm going to dismiss all charges. Miss Johns, you have a very safe and easy way home. Thank you for coming today. We appreciate you. You know, and I was like, it's over? Like, it's over. Oh my God, it's over. And Mike then interrupts him and he's like, well, Judge, where would you suggest that I take the case? And he's like, Mr. Stanfield, I am not here to do your job for you. I have given you no less than 4 options of where you can take this case. And I would think that maybe if you want to pursue that, you should pursue those options. But again, I'm going to state,
Missouri.
Not my problem.
Yeah.
And we are closing the case.
And that happens a lot, right? Like jurisdiction problems are...
Right. But he did it on purpose. I mean, he thought he was going to have home court advantage, you know, and he's only licensed to practice in Missouri.
Right.
So he can't sue me from anywhere else.
Right. Yeah.
And a defamation lawsuit, like what they're lodging, when you go to a real attorney, that's some dollars.
Yeah, no, I mean, unfortunately, I've had experiences in this realm, and I've had to hire lawyers all over the place.
So do you want to know what happened in the lobby? And what?
Oh, remind me, because I think I've heard this story, but I can't remember exactly. But yeah, go ahead. I mean, I'm good with time if you're good with time. And I'm near the end of my list, but...
Yeah, I understand. That's fine. So... basically, I show up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's a whole lot of bullshit that went on with that, okay? I believe that the young lady that was driving me was trying to not make it there on purpose, okay?
All right.
I've said other things. People make fun of me for it, but that's really what was happening. And I finally, at 4 o'clock in the morning, I was like, I'm not going by your GPS anymore. We have to get there. Like, your GPS still says we're 5 hours away. We should be there. We should have been there. We should have been there at midnight. Like, it's 4 a.m. What is going on? So we arrive at 6. So I lay down for a few minutes, you know, I get up, I get ready, I go downstairs because Amber from Into the Weeds had paid for our first night. She's who procured this hotel for us, you know, which was very nice of her, and I appreciate that. But I go downstairs to meet with her. She's in the lobby where they're having, you know, breakfast, and so I go down to have my breakfast, and I'm sitting there with her talking, and all of a sudden, here comes Mike Stanfield with this other guy that I don't recognize, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Mike Stanfield. I'm like, oh shit, that's Mike Stanfield. I'm like, how did we end up in the same
hotel
as him? Like, there's only 3 hotels though, so like it was like a luck of the draw, right? But this is the one that they go to every time they're in Chillicothe, so I damn it. So I'm like freaking out. So what I did was I picked up my phone and I held it like this, just in case anything happened. I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm just holding it. And this guy that I don't recognize starts screaming at me across the aisle. And he's like, it's not the time for that. I'm like, the time for what? And he's like, you're recording. I said, actually, I'm not recording you right now. But now that you mention it, I think I'm going to take some pictures real quick because this is weird. And you're harassing me. So my associate that drove me, she comes down, and we were half-heartedly joking, but this was why she was there, because she was supposed to be covering this part of the story for our documentary and for our YouTube series, you know, channel and everything. So I said, oh my God, Sarah, I double dog dare you to go over there and ask Mike Stanfield for a comment. Just a comment. Don't do anything else. Just, do you have a comment about this court case that you have lodged against Fancy Miss Ellie, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, she goes over there, and Mike immediately starts raising his voice at her, and he's like, you're with Fancy, you're not a real media person. And she's like, yes, I am. And she's arguing, and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm telling her, Sarah, come back over here. Come back over here. And so his bodyguard, who we find out is actually a bodyguard, like he needed a bodyguard for little old me. I am 5'2", 145 pounds at this, you know, like seriously, you need a bodyguard from me? Okay, Mr. Man. So he gets up in her face. He stands up and he like almost brushes her whole body, and he's like yelling in her face to move. and then she stumbles backwards. And if you watch the video, there's a video that's out, you can see that I'm sitting at an angle, and there is, like, the bar is right here. So I can't see all of what's happening. I can only see from my angle. She stumbles back, and I yelled out at her, "Did he just touch you?" And she yells back, "Yes, he touched my breasts." And I'm like, oh my God. So I walk over and I talk to the concierge, and I'm like, I need to call the police. He's just assaulted my reporter, and I need to call the police. And Mike yells out at me, "Don't worry, Fancy. The police are already on their way. We already called them." And I'm like, "You called? For what? What did you call them for, Mike?" And then I looked down at my watch and I noticed, oh shit, I need to be in court. So I tell them, I'm gonna be in court. If the officer shows up, please let him know that I'm over at the courthouse. And when I walked in the courthouse, I told them. They said, okay, well, the officer can come talk to you afterwards. Just go on up to the court, So I did that. And they come in and they try to mad dog and intimidate us while we're sitting outside of the court. Like, they're standing over there, like, staring at us. And I even went in to ask the clerk of the court something, and I said, could you please have them not be standing where they're just, like, staring at us? It's very intimidating, and I don't appreciate this. So court happens. Case dismissed. We go downstairs. Police officer meets us. We show him the video. We tell him what happened. And he says to me, Amber, Alora, and Sarah, all of us, all four of us are standing there, this is a class 4 misdemeanor or assault, class 4 assault. You guys need to come down to the station, make a statement. So we all drive to the station. He takes Sarah in the back. And I don't know exactly what happened with Sarah in the back, but she was very shook up when she came out. She was very upset. She said he did tell her several times, if you're lying, you can get in trouble, Sarah. You can get in trouble. He does not speak to me. He does not speak to Amber. He does not speak to a lawyer. He just picks up all of our statements and he takes them away. And he says, we'll be in contact. I get home and I find out through the the third party that told me about my first court case that I'm now being accused of filing a false police report. Me and Sarah. Not Amber, not Alora, just me and Sarah. Now, Amber's statement says almost the exact same thing as mine. The only thing I stated differently was that I saw full body contact, and she says he appeared to touch her. That's the difference. And I've been in a court battle about this, and I now have a warrant out for my arrest because I didn't show up to one of the court Zooms because I was sick, because I have medical conditions, and I was waiting for the Zoom to come on, and I fell asleep because I'd been up all morning being sick. And so I didn't go. So they issue a warrant for my arrest, even though I literally within 15 minutes contacted the judge and his chambers and was like, hey, can I appear? So, I can't hear you. You're muted.
And this is all from that one case?
One case.
So you went in person the first time that it was dismissed, but why would you have a virtual meeting?
Because they pressed charges for filing a false police report.
So this is technically a separate
whole new
thing.
case because of this whole incident.
And you
felt I have a problem in Missouri. Yeah. And after this, I write to them. And I'm trying to get them to to move the case forward. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that happens within this case. And eventually, it's still sitting there because they won't respond. The court will not respond to me.
To this day?
To this day.
So you have a warrant for your arrest right now?
It's been a year and a half now, so no. I mean, basically, they failed to prosecute within a reasonable amount of time. And so at this point, it's a misdemeanor. It's gone. But I still can't go to Missouri because I'm scared that they'll pick me up.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah. Right. It's very crazy. Yeah. And there's a lot that goes with that. People can find it on my YouTube. I talk about it. Explain the whole thing.
It's so crazy. All right. Now we have arrived at the portion of the interview where I just feed you random questions.
No problem.
Okay. Because everything was good, and then now it's just like random.
I'm so sorry.
Oh no! This is great.
There's a lot.
No, so far you've answered all my questions. So when I say random, is that these are claims that as I've been doing my research, I've been building this interview doc and just putting it. So there are people that say that you somehow organized something called the Nick Infiltration Group, where people pose as Nick's girlfriend in prison to get him to make statements on the record. Is that true?
That is a 100% false statement.
Where did that come from? What is that?
So, as I told you before, when I was working with A&E and I got the interrogation video, what I was working with them was, there was a young lady, her name is Dawn. She contacted Nicholas somewhere before his trial, or right when his trial started in 2018, in the beginning. I was not involved with her, didn't know anything about her at that time. She starts writing to Nicholas, wants to be his girlfriend, all this crap. But there is evidence to prove that she was already communicating with Christy and Gypsy at this time, and I think that this is that, but I can't necessarily prove it just yet. I have a lot of information I'm still working through with that. But, so the group was called the Nick Investigation Group. Okay? That was our little group chat. She's in there. I did not hire that girl. I did not send that girl in there. She came to me telling me that Nicholas or his father or some anonymous person is literally threatening her life. And I already kind of knew about her because there were some problems with her with a couple of groups of the Facebook groups. And she had, I guess, scammed them out of something, whatever have you. You know, she comes to me with this sob story. And she has all these emails between her and Nicholas. Well, I'm a journalist. I want them. I'm not going to freaking turn this down. Like, are you kidding me? You know? And she continued to write him for a little bit. And, you know, I had one of the nurses that I had working on this was a psychology student as well. And she was helping her work through what she was going through from all of this. You know, like he's attacking her, he's doing all this stuff, she's scared, they're threatening her life, you know. And so she's kind of telling her, hey, maybe we can get some more information, you know. But when I got this one piece, this email, the first email she brings to me currently, that is current happening, and he knows she's working with me now, I tell her, you have to stop. This is not healthy for you. I'm frightened for your safety, for your mental health. I don't want you writing him anymore. So she stops writing him. She does. And then eventually, Christy and her, I told you about this other content creator that they went to about me having an STD and cheating on my husband and all of that, right? Earlier I told you about that. This lady is Natasha. You're muted again. This lady's Natasha Cooper.
Yeah, I was saying that you were rattling that off, but we didn't talk about the details.
So Natasha Cooper is this other content creator, and Christy and Dawn and Natasha have already had their row, like way big thing, and she's even one of the suspects in who might be actually threatening Dawn, right? So Christy and Dawn and a couple other people that are involved in all of this get together, and they come up with the plan to tell Natasha Cooper that I did this to my husband and I'm a nasty hoe and I did all this stuff, you know, and they're putting this out. And so there was called another chat that we had, because we had tons of chats. We had the medical chat, the psychological chat, the whatever chat, you know. We even had a whole Slack community that we were working through all the evidence, you know, so there was everything. The other chat is called the Natasha Infiltration Group. Wahaha. So
like
this
a joke,
information
almost, right?
is getting leaked out of our information. And I don't know that it's Christy. I find out later it's Christy who's leaking medical documents, things that we have, conversations. I'm like, where is this coming from? So I'm yelling and I'm mad at my group and I'm like, I promise you, if anyone is putting out information that is our information out there, I will sue you into oblivion. And in that statement, I say the two groups like as one group almost. I say, if you're doing it from the Nick infiltration, the Natasha infiltration or Nick whatever thing. And they took that and turned that into, there's a Nick infiltration group. She's doing this to her. She's paying for it. I've been accused of all kinds of things. Like I hired a sex worker to do this. Like none of this happened. And I proved all of this in 2019. But again, Dawn surfaces again after Gypsy comes out of prison, and they release these emails that I had taken down. I had them in my Patreon for a long time. I took them down when I started really understanding better who Nicholas Godejohn was and his role in this, and that I had misjudged him based on my lack of understanding. I'd gone through school at this point, and I was beginning to figure out, there's some things about him that it portrays this way, but it's really this, And so I pulled them. I didn't want anybody to have them, but these resurfaced because Dawn and Gypsy decide that they're going to put them all out, except that they don't put out Dawn's side of the conversation. They put out Nick's side of the conversation only. So it's these raging, crazy rants that he's sending her and all this stuff, but there's no context. And they're doing this during the period of time that he's going through his final appeal. And I'm pissed. But now Nicholas won't speak to me because of all of this. He thinks I'm like the enemy. And I'm like, dude, I'm not the enemy. I've talked to his father. I've done all of that. But that's how that came about. So there wasn't ever a Nick infiltration group. It was a Nick investigation group, and it was a Natasha infiltration bwahaha into her stupid Facebook group that she had blocked all of us out of. That's it.
And do you think now in hindsight, do you think that could have made a difference in his appeal or not?
No, it did not. Thankfully, it did not. But I think it could have made a difference in his appeal if he had done the right things. The problem that Nicholas has is Nicholas has never had anyone on his side that advocated for him the right way. Okay? Nobody. His parents are not equipped. His mother passed away, and that's a tragic story. And Gypsy made that worse. She made a comment about how that's his karma for taking her mother's life. So his mother passed away from an overdose, and like, awful. So he's always had this group of people around him that I feel like just create drama for him, but don't really care about getting him the right help to get through the justice system. And now he's sadly used all of his appeals, and there's nothing he can do for him.
Yeah, it does seem like he's a big pawn in everyone's game. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay. So, someone accused you of being part of a RICO organization. Oh, wait. Or no. You accused someone of being part of a RICO organization, corporate espionage, when she left to start her own network. Help me out there.
Okay, so the RICO thing is because of what was going on last year with the monetization. There was merchandise. There was all kinds of things happening
from Gypsy.
Her family, other people of the family. It was becoming really a cash cow. It really was. And
it
that
still
was
is a cash.
That's my problem with Christy in the whole thing. I've always said that I felt like Christy handled this more like a cash cow than Dee Dee ever could have. Like that, and that's why Christy hates me, is because I called her Dee Dee 2.0. Like that was the breaking point, was me calling her Dee Dee 2.0. Nothing else, just that. So, I was saying it, and I'm like, this could be, like, if this is really, like, money laundering, and we've got this idea of sex trafficking was happening that Gypsy was involved with before the schmurder, or before the murder, sorry, we have to say schmurder on TikTok, murder and all that, that this could end up being a federal investigation of a RICO Act. That's all I was saying. I was just, like, throwing it out there as just depending on whatever all comes forward, this could be something much bigger than we thought it was. And
what was the sex trafficking part that she was meeting other men, I guess?
Yeah, well, not just that. There is a group, and we have talked with we've talked with several of the women that were involved in this. We've talked with a couple of the victims of this, and it's all tied into this, like, this VisionCon that Gypsy went to, which is like a Comic-Con, kind of thing, cosplaying, everything. And see, what I said about that is there is evidence that there was trafficking going on at this event, which there's evidence of trafficking going on at any of those type of events all across the country. And at the time, there were raids happening in California, and there was some stuff about this specific Comic-Con that she was going to, this VisionCon. And there's other people that have been charged with kidnapping, trafficking children. There was a murder that happened of a little girl. Like, all of that is tied into the people that Gypsy was surrounding herself with. And we do know that she had many relations with these men, 35 to 40-year-old men, when she's 14, 15, all the way up to, 23, and doing this. And so that's where that kind of came in. And we feel like there's just a larger story at hand. But we're still working through understanding all of that. It's something that I think plays into why they had to get rid of Dee Dee. I do not believe that this is just I want my freedom and I can't get it, and so I fell in love with a guy and the guy came in and called my mom. I don't think that's that. I think there is a larger story here, based on lots of evidence that we have. Community members, investigations, arrests, all of that, and something is not right about what they've told us in the story of what happened that week. There's just things that are wrong, just all the way wrong, and they don't explain them, and it's like 5 different people are standing there, all the different officers, and they're all telling a completely different story about what happens in this particular event of a guy going through a window, and getting into the crime scene before anybody else. Like, there's a whole thing there.
So are you implying that maybe Christy and the Blanchards had something or were planning with Gypsy? But you said there was evidence.
There is, but...
So why are you just saying if there's evidence?
Because it's evidence that not everybody wants to believe. It's things that we know based on community, talking, and things of like timelines of events that have happened, stuff that we have. We've done a really big deep dive into this. It's not just me. Other people think this. Other people have put this out there. Trixie Lane, for instance, on her channel, it's now like some true crime something or other. I'd have to tell you what it is, but she did a whole expose on all of them.
Could you point me in the right direction? Because I'd like to. That would be a rabbit hole worth going.
And definitely look at my Vault series on YouTube. It's like I think it's like 17 15-minute videos basically. It goes into a lot of the family history of what this family specifically does and the crimes that they're involved in from way back, all the way back, which makes us think something else is not right here. The evidence wasn't tested. There is an entire trail of blood from the kitchen all the way down the hallway. They did not test a single bit of that. There is conflicting stories between one of the cab drivers of picking up 2 different people on 2 different nights and taking them out there. And she's trying to, she thinks it's one person, but it's not. It ends up coming out that it's 2 different trips. And she's lying about one of the trips. She is. It's just, you can see it. When you go look at it, she's telling something. And then when she goes to court, they don't mention the second trip at all. They just act like it doesn't even exist. So
all right, I'll dig into that.
There's a lot. I can send you. Yeah. I'll send you some bullet points of things.
Yeah, if you think about it, it's just. I had no idea what I was. How.
Yeah, you don't. You have no idea. Yeah.
Okay, so last random question, and then just some housekeeping stuff, but. You somewhere you claimed that Gypsy threatened your life, saying something like, "The last person who got in my way isn't here anymore." Yep. Tell me about that. Like, where can I find this? Like, was this?
You can't. It happened in 2019 when I released so like I said, there was a series of things that happened all at one time. I released the interrogation video. Christy and I are getting into it over the prescription pad. Gypsy's pissed at me for doing this interview about her relationship with Ken, and I was trying to help them through that, and it was not what she portrays it as. And all of this is happening. Well, when all of that is happening, Gypsy calls me on the phone, and she's really angry with me. And so she's yelling at me about doing this interview with In Touch magazine. And she's like, "You didn't have any authorization to do that." I go, "I don't need authorization to do it, but by the way, your stepmom is who is wanting me to do all these interviews, not her. Not me. She asked me to do them because you told her she couldn't do them anymore, so she wanted me to do them, which is, that caused problems between her and Christy." So I'm talking to her about this, and I'm like, "Gypsy, you have to realize that this is a much bigger story than what it is in prison. And when you come out, sweetheart, there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to be dealing with that I don't think you are prepared for, and your family is not preparing you for this." And one of those things was about her children. she was telling me, my kids will never know about this. And I'm like, honey, if you think that your kids will never know about this, you are very sorely mistaken. And it is something that you need to be prepared that if you do have children, that you inform them before some asshole kid on the playground comes up and says to them, my mommy says that your mommy murdered your grandma. Like, you know, like that, kids are cruel, Gyps. And she's like, she got very angry at me. And that's when she yelled it at me. She goes, you know, the last person who got in my way is dead. And it just, I couldn't, that was my reaction. No words. And if you can tell, I have a lot of words. And I just was like, okay. And I hung up, you know, I hung up. And I called Christy immediately. And I said, your daughter just threatened my life. And I'm really concerned about this. Okay? Because at some point in time, Christy, you guys are going to have to deal with the fact that she is, in fact, a murderer. Okay? She took a person's life. And whether she did the jabs or not, which there's some question, but, you know, she did this. And she needs help. And I don't think you guys are doing the right things because you're not getting her help in prison. She's not going to any therapy. She's refusing therapy. Like, this is not okay. Like, I'm concerned. So Christy says, I'll take care of it. Please don't do anything about this. Please don't get her in trouble. She's already in enough trouble. And I'm like, this is not for me to get her in trouble. I understand she said it in a moment of passion and anger, and I'm not afraid of her, okay? I'm not afraid of her showing up on my doorstep. I'm not. Just not. But you guys have got to deal with this. So Christy contacts her, and I do have a letter back from Gypsy where she's apologizing to me for this comment, or this conversation, but she doesn't mention the comment, obviously. So when she's getting out of jail and she put out that post on her Facebook trying to get me taken down, I finally contacted the warden. And, am I disconnecting? Can you still hear me? Can you hear me now?
Breaking up, but
okay, yeah, it broke up for some reason. My
yeah. It broke up for a little bit, but okay. I was following what you were saying.
So I contact the warden. I remember contacting him back in the day.
So it might have been a combination of your internet and my internet. It says that Fancy's device is struggling.
Yeah, I'm turning off everything else. So there we go. Okay, so I've only got this one thing open now. So hopefully,
all right, and we're close to done.
We're almost done. Yeah. So, so I do remember contacting the warden when she started threatening me in other ways online, you know, and telling me she's going to come after me, she's going to destroy my life, she's going to do all these things, and there's proof of all that. Okay, there's absolute proof of all that. So I contact the warden, and he tells me he doesn't think it's a viable threat. And I'm like, I beg to differ, sir, but okay. So then when she put up the post to have me canceled, got me banned from the Banfield show, I again contacted the warden. The warden tells me that if I want to FOIA any of those phone conversations or anything, I'm going to have to go through the legal department. Yeah. I contact the legal department, and they never respond back. And then I get sued right after this happens. Yeah,
I was going to say that's public record, I'm sure, right?
So Amber and Alara from Into the Weeds did FOIA all of her prison phone calls. And do you know what they came back with? That for the safety of other inmates, they cannot release Gypsy Rose Blanchard's prison phone calls.
It's weird. Have you ever watched The Jinx Part 2, the second season? That was so good, wasn't it?
Such a good one.
I was like, how do you top the first season? And then I was like, wow, because it just and as soon as I finished watching that, I'm like, can you get prison calls? Because like this will blow everything wide open, and you can, but it is very hard. I've tried.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's a totally separate FOIA. It's not one that even most people know to file. Mm-hmm. You have to go through a lot of channels for it, and they did get the jail calls, but they did not. They were denied on getting the FOIA calls, and so if we really wanted to get those jail call or the prison calls, we would have to sue them for them. We'd have to actually take it to court, and that's what normal media does. They have a team of lawyers that sue people for FOIA requests. In fact, right now in the Siders case, that's happening. They're FOIAing things because they think that the media and the law enforcement are not being 100% truthful. So people are FOIAing.
No, there's a way to force that out. It just depends how much you want to. How much do you want to spend to?
Right, exactly. So that happened. And, I have the proof of her apologizing for that conversation and all the other harassment that she's...
Do you hear that? Do you hear that in the background? Mm-mm. The rattling of the cage? You don't hear that?
No.
I have a Great Dane. And
oh, my gosh!
His crate is...
huge.
This big. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
And when he has bad dreams, he kicks and this is like...
Oh my goodness!
I can't believe you can't hear that. That's amazing. That's why I keep muting myself because
no, that's funny. I can't.
I thought it would be distracting. Okay,
but I have my air conditioner running in my ear, and I don't have the greatest of hearing.
No. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Maybe somebody else might be able to hear it, but I don't hear it. Anyway,
so we're winding it down. So all right, the name Fancy. I'm just curious. Where did that come from?
So. I told you a little bit about the fact that I identified with this case because of my overbearing mother. And so when I was 18, I was very angry with my mom. I was very pissed at my father. And I was adopted, just so you know. I was adopted as a baby. So I have this name, April Johns, okay? April Matson, really, before, okay? And then I got married, I'm April Johns. And so at 18, when I entered the industry, I was originally going by Francesca Maselli, and that was because of a very dear friend of mine that was named Francesca, and I thought her name was beautiful, and so I decided that was going to be my stage name. I thought it was cool. But no one could pronounce it. They always, like, the way I spelled it, they were like, Francesca, Frankie, Francis, Francine, and I'm like, none of those things. So somebody said, you're going to have to make this more memorable than that. Like, this is a hard name to pronounce. You can't. No one's going to remember this name. And I was like, okay. So I was thinking about it, and my favorite Reba song was Fancy. And I'd won certain awards for singing in karaoke competitions and using that song as one of my songs. So I was like, well, that's a cute nickname for a Francesca. Let's just go with that. And I went with that. And that's where that came from. And I've been using it ever since I was 18 years old. Obviously I still have my legal name, but this is what in the industry you do, so that's where it came from. And it, I've had it for the whole time, and they try to act like, oh, I'm trying to scam people with this name or whatever. I'm like, no, it's very common in our industry to do that. Like, seriously, do you think Tom Cruise is really Tom Cruise? Marilyn Monroe isn't Marilyn Monroe, so that's where Fancy came from.
I was just curious. Because it's a fancy name. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fancy name, right? And it worked in my favor. I was remembered on sets because of my strange name, so.
All right, I'm going to say that this is the last question, but I already thought of another question, so I'll ask you my last question, then I'll ask you the question I thought about.
The real last question? Okay.
Yeah.
And then probably five more questions.
Yeah, exactly. And so I guess the last question was, knowing so much about this case, you're so important to this case, right? Like, that's why I was so.
Thank you.
I was like, I have to talk with Fancy because you were like a big player at the beginning, and so much has happened afterwards. Oh my God, I already thought of 3 more questions.
So did you? I knew you were.
There's 3 more last questions. All right. Okay. So, but you're so important to this case. That's why I wanted to talk with you. But knowing what you know now, you know so much about this case. What do you actually want to happen to Gypsy Rose Blanchard now?
That's changed a lot over the years. And if you'd asked me this question 3 years ago, I would have given you a vastly different answer because I was still very angry. Really, really angry for what they've put me through and done to me, my family, my friends. They tried to take Colleen's license from her for talking about this. Like, they filed a complaint, like, all of this. Like, it's been a hell of a road. But this baby, this child changed things. And it's taken me 2 years to really reconcile with her getting pregnant, her having this kid. There's a lot of scandal about whether the baby's real or not, all this bullshit that goes around the streets. And I've really found some empathy for Gypsy, not compassion. And I used to think it was bad that I didn't have compassion until I understood really what empathy was, and why I have empathy over compassion. And so in all of this, originally I believe that the justice system failed. I think that she should have done life. I do. I think Nicholas is doing life. I think she deserved life. I don't think that she is a member of society that is productive. I don't. I literally think that, she is, in my opinion, sociopathic, narcissistic, and I think that she doesn't, up until having this child, I didn't see any remorse or change in her whatsoever this whole time. And I've been waiting for it, because the reason I went to TikTok after the Banfield thing was because of my daughter. We had said before the Banfield thing, she was getting out of prison, and I was calling my friends and I'm like, oh my God, if we don't get our documentary out now, I don't know when we're ever going to get it out. And my daughter, with her wise wisdom, she says to me, Mama, why don't we just let her come out and see what she does? And if she comes out and she's remorseful and she goes in, she goes and she lives her life and whatever, then we do our documentary, write our books, and we walk away. We don't do this anymore. I'm like, okay. So I did. And she came out swinging. I mean, swinging for everybody. And she was very arrogant and very hateful and all of that. But in this last year, since she's had her daughter, I have seen a change in the community people around her, as well as her. And so at this point, I know that she can't go back to prison for this. Do I think she might reoffend? Sure, I do. Because I think that she can't control her actions. And I think that her brain is very scary in there. And she's traumatized from what she did, And I think she knows the truth in her own heart, that her mama really didn't abuse her, that maybe there was some emotional abuse, of course, but I mean, if you get out of childhood without some level of trauma and abuse, I mean, I don't know what the hell childhood you lived, So at this point, I would like her, for her daughter's sake, because this is an innocent child. She didn't ask to be brought into this world. I think that she and Ken should get off the internet and go live a very quiet, peaceful life with their child and work on herself further. And that's what I would hope for her, because to wish anything different is to wish tragedy on an innocent child. And whether you think the baby exists or doesn't exist, or it's her baby or not her baby, or borrowed baby or brother's baby, there is a baby involved. And that baby, if she continues on, having these crazy bouts where she's cutting up blankets and slashing headboards and having all of this, that baby's in trouble. And I don't think that anybody around that baby is trying to protect the baby. And so that's my thing. I hope she gets the help she needs for her daughter's sake. And I hope she gets off the internet.
And do you really believe that if she got off the internet today, that people would stop harassing her?
Yes.
You really do? Yeah.
I do.
I think there's a lot of people that make a living off of her being on it. Yeah.
And you know what? That would be her ultimate revenge to all of them. Because I don't cover her personal life today. I strictly cover the case. I don't care what she did on Tuesday, how many times she fries her hair off, what she does. I don't. I just don't care about any of that. I don't care whether her and Ken are together or not together. I don't. So I don't cover all that. And so if she were to go away, those people would cease to have content. They'd have nothing left to talk about because there wouldn't be anything coming out from her. So I do think so. And I think a lot of the hatred does come from the fact that a lot of people see her as influencing, I did hear it that time.
Yeah.
Of influencing children.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem with this. And a lot of people that were supportive of her originally are no longer supportive of her because of her own actions post-prison.
It's kind of crazy. Like, I told my daughters, I was like, I'm going to do a gypsy case. And they were like starstruck. Like, oh, gypsy. And I'm thinking, how do they even know about gypsy? They're like in their teens, So it seems like she's reaching a whole new generation.
And that's the demographic of people who are looking up to her right now.
And you mentioned, and we've talked about this, and you've already said the answer, but I'm curious about it because, like, do you think she's dangerous? Like, you said that she might reoffend, but like, in what way?
I do. A lot of that has to do with I don't think she has control of her own actions or her demons. And I think until she does something about that yes, she is dangerous. Are you okay, Abby?
No, it's okay. Is she all right?
I mean, she's fine. I think that, I do think she is dangerous. Especially because I don't think anybody around her is encouraging her to get the help that she needs, if there is even an ability for help, because as we all know, sociopathic, narcissistic, therapy isn't viable in helping, so it just is, it is. And I think she is a very volatile person. And I think that she reacts on sheer emotion.
The blanket video was kind of a window into that, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that video is very disturbing for various reasons. It's not just the actions that she's doing, cutting up this blanket and freaking out, okay? Because that's, all right, fine, whatever. She got mad, she roped up her blanket, fine, whatever. The fact that she set up a tripod, puts her camera up there, gets the angle right, and she's doing all of this, and she's very calm when she's putting the phone there, and and then she steps back, and then all of a sudden it's just an explosion of, you lying, and she's, the hell you say, and she's cutting this blanket up, and you're like, what the fuck is even happening right now? The methodical part of that is the setup. She's emotional, fine, but she had forethought of, before I take this blanket and I'm going to destroy the shit out of it, let me hit record.
Yeah. That's almost like a performance. Yeah.
Problem. Yes.
Exactly. It's weird. It is
That's
weird.
the problem.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things.
I think is the problem.
I don't even think she knows who she is. That's the sad part.
I don't think she knows who she is. No.
Yeah, and hopefully maybe she'll figure it out. But she hasn't had a normal life. I mean,
she hasn't.
Regardless of how you feel about it. I mean, she's only been free for 2 years, Right.
Yeah. I mean, and she did have a lot more social interactions and friends and things than she ever pretended she did. She was very socialized. She had lots of things, But again, she led a traumatic life. Just if you look at what was done to her medically as a medically fragile child, that's traumatic. Those experiences are traumatic. Kids that go through that have these horrible diseases are forever changed. I have a girlfriend whose daughter was a beautiful, happy, loving kid running around, giggling, laughing, ended up with a baseball-sized thing of cancer on her spine, and after that she became a very dark, very, very angry child.
Yeah. It shapes you.
Trauma. Yeah. Any way you look at it, she's been through some things.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I don't think anybody would deny that. So, what about your documentary? Did you ever make it?
No, I haven't made it yet, and I'm thankful. Like, if I had I did the podcast in 2019, and we walked away from it at that point. We were done. We thought, we're done. We're not doing this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. Then I got, the interview for the documentary that I did, the one I did with them, or did with Killer Cases, and then I was getting ready to do it when she got released. We were going through stuff, and we have a couple books out, that I've written and stuff, but they're only pieces of a story, and so in the last 3 years, so much information has been thrown at us that I'm thankful I didn't make another documentary that would have ended up being vastly untruthful.
What about, I mean, will you ever make it?
Yeah, we're making it now. We're working on it now. We're putting together a team of experts, doctors, forensic scientists, psychologists, all of that to, do the heavy work. And our documentary is going to be what the world didn't get. So no one ever got a trial of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. They got a trial of Nicholas Godejohn. And the perception of this has been greatly altered by the fact that this other information that we should have known was not known. These videos, these things, all this stuff that proved everything that we thought might be true but couldn't prove. So our documentary is going to be, first of all, yes, my accounting of going through and finding all of this, and what I went through and how I did that and everything, and, going through all that. But the other part of our documentary is going to be a mock trial where we have, the two teams, they have all the evidence, and we put on what never happened. And then we want to ask our viewers, now that you've seen all the evidence, what do you think? Where do you stand? Would you convict her for life? Because Mike Stanfield said, I had no defense. I'm very thankful that the prosecuting attorney was so lenient and agreed to this. Otherwise, she was looking at life. And I think that if it had gone to trial with all the evidence we have today, she would have gotten life. I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're working on it.
That's cool. Well, when you release it, let me know. And do you have a date in mind, or you're still just too early?
We're still putting everything together. Like I said, there's so much now. Like, I haven't even read through all of the emails because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of pages.
Maybe with AI now, you could comb through it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm using. I'm using an AI analyst now that I put all of the information into it, and it basically analyzes each document for me, tells me what it says, what it means, all of that. Yeah. So it is helping, but I mean, it's intensive because I have to take the time.
Even with
to
the AI, it's still
documents.
a lot. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to stop the recording so I could upload, but